Meet Sam Harris, a devout atheist seen as God by some of the YouTube atheists like Atheism is Unstoppable aka Devin Tracy and some other atheist fanatics. Harris became interested in spiritual and philosophical questions when he studied at Stanford University. He was fascinated by the idea that he might be able to achieve spiritual insights without the use of drugs. Leaving Stanford in his second year, he went to India, where he studied meditation with Hindu and Buddhist religious teachers, including Dilgo Khyentse. 11 years later, in 1997, he returned to Stanford, completing a BA degree in philosophy in 2000. Harris began writing his first book, The End of Faith, immediately after the September 11th attacks. He received a Ph.D. degree in cognitive neuroscience in 2009 from the University of California, Los Angeles, using functional magnetic resonance imaging to conduct research into the neural basis of belief, disbelief, and uncertainty. His thesis was titled The Moral Landscape: How Science Could Determine Human Values, and his advisor was Mark S. Cohen. In a CNN interview with You Would Think Sam Harris is a free-thinking and truthful human being, but what he proves is that he is no different from every other political correct puppet from the liberal hall of zombie. This man has been talking about Islam as an ideology and how Muslims holds those ideology. In his 2005 speech he speaks about how the moderate Muslims protects the radical Muslims.
But religious moderation has some real problems. The first is that it gives cover to fundamentalism. Because religious moderates have made it taboo to criticize faith. They want faith respected. They want the whole project of being religious, being identified as a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, to be respected. That it is impossible to call into question this basic project, the ethical tenability of raising a child to believe he's a Christian as opposed to anything else. And under the cover of this respect, we are now powerless to say the very harsh and necessary things about religious extremism that we need to say, because it is taboo. You have to respect faith.
But he personally attacks Ben Carson for sharing the same opinion on a Muslim who takes Islam seriously. See what he has to say on CNN. He actually calls Ben Carson a bigot.
Do you view Dr. Carson's comments as bigoted at all?
Well, I do. I think we have to distinguish between how we treat ideas and how we treat people. And what you hear in Dr. Carson's remarks is a kind of Christian demagoguery coming into the conversation. Frankly, he's not a very thoughtful person. I mean, here's a surgeon who doesn't believe in evolution. I mean, if ever you needed proof that you could be a surgeon without being a scientist, you have it in the person of Dr. Carson.
You can be a surgeon without being a scientist. What an insult. Sam Harris, how about we compare you to the person you claim cannot think? Let's see what you have accomplished, lives you have saved compared to Ben Carson. Let's take a look at Ben Carson. Carson was a professor of neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery, and pediatrics, and he was the director of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. At 33, he became the youngest major division director in the hospital's history as director of pediatric neurosurgery. He was also a co-director of the Johns Hopkins Craniofacial Center. Carson specialized in traumatic brain injuries, brain and spinal cord tumors, achondroplasia, neurological and congenital disorders, craniosynostosis, epilepsy, and trigeminal neuralgia. Carson believes his hand-eye coordination and three-dimensional reasoning made him a gifted surgeon. After medical school, he became a neurosurgery resident at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He began his career as a neurosurgeon, but also developed an interest in pediatrics. In 1987, Carson successfully separated conjoined twins, the Binder twins, who had been joined at the back of the head, craniopagus twins. The 70-member surgical team, led by Carson, worked for 22 hours. Both twins survived. Carson figured in the revival of the hemispherectomy, a drastic surgical procedure in which part or all of one hemisphere of the brain is removed to control severe pediatric epilepsy. He refined the procedure in the 1980s, encouraged by John M. Freeman, and performed it many times. Carson has served on the boards of the Kellogg Company, Costco, and the Academy of Achievement. He is an emeritus fellow of the Yale Corporation. In March 2013, Carson announced he would retire as a surgeon, stating, "I'd much rather quit when I'm at the top of my game." His retirement became official on July 1, 2013.
Stop it already? Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good looking? I mean, maybe we should be doing something more meaningful with our lives. Like helping people.
Derek, what people?
I don't know. People who need help.
Exactly, Sam Harris, that is what Dr. Carson does, he helps people. Since you imply he does not think straight or dumb because he does not hold belief in your evolution religion, let's see what he has achieved compared to what you have achieved. Carson is a member of the American Academy of Achievement, Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society, and the Horatio Alger Association of Distinguished Americans. Carson has been awarded 38 honorary doctorate degrees and dozens of national merit citations. Detroit Public Schools opened the Dr. Benjamin Carson High School of Science and Medicine, 34, for students interested in pursuing healthcare careers. The school is partnering with Detroit Receiving Hospital and Michigan State University. In 2000, he received the award for Greatest Public Service Benefiting the Disadvantaged, an award given out annually by Jefferson Awards. In 2001, he was elected by the Library of Congress on the occasion of its 200th anniversary to be one of the 89 who earned the designation Library of Congress Living Legend. In 2004, he was appointed to serve on the President's Council on Bioethics. In 2005, Carson was awarded the William E. Simon Prize for Philanthropic Leadership. In 2006, he received the Springer Medal from the NAACP, their highest honor for outstanding achievement. In 2008, the White House awarded Carson the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. In 2008, Ford's Theater Society awarded Carson the Ford's Theater Lincoln Medal for exemplifying the qualities embodied by President Abraham Lincoln, including courage, integrity, tolerance, equality, and creative expression through superior achievements. In 2008, U.S. News & World Report named Carson as one of America's best leaders. In 2010, he was elected into the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine, considered one of the highest honors in the fields of health and medicine. In 2012, Carson was the influential Marylander Award recipient from the Daily Record, Baltimore's legal and business newspaper. In 2014, a poll of Americans conducted by Gallup ranked Carson sixth on a list of the most admired men in the world. Sam Harris, will you even come close to achieving something like this even in your field you hold a PhD for? Then we can see you as smart. As of now you will continue to do nothing but spread hatred in the world, go to debates, but you will never achieve what a smart doctor and scientists like Dr. Ben Carson have. This is not about writing petty books on religion. Anyone can write a book on religion. You will always be a superhero in the atheists community, and they have been proven to be some of the dumbest humans on the net. Stupid atheists like Jaclyn Glenn making money off atheists that actually have some certificate good enough to be smarter than her, but somehow, the likes of Dusty, atheism is unstoppable, the amazing atheists etc. manage to exploit these so-called smart and free thinkers that are on the internet. All over the internet, your loyal zombies are bragging on how you destroyed the Muslim guy you share the set with, but they refuse to see your stupidity and political correctness. I will let Carson mess you up now.
So I don't expect him to have thought deeply about how Islam may be, as a set of doctrines and ideas, may be incompatible with the Constitution or any other set of ideas, but he is a Bible thumper of sorts who I think rightly fears the demagoguery of his antithesis in the Muslim world. But
a few minutes, but first, Dr. Benjamin Carson continues to surge in the polls. Over the weekend, he caused a bit of a controversy over remarks that he made about faith and politics. Take a look.
Should your faith matter to voters?
Well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
That doesn't mean, I mean, so for instance, I am a very vocal critic of Islam as a set of doctrines and ideas. And Dean, your other guest, has called me a bigot in the past. I think quite unfairly.
I think on Twitter, not in your face. But I will tonight if you like that.
Well, okay,
I have no problem doing that.
It's even more courageous to do it on Twitter. But let me just spell out, lest he seem to obfuscate the issue here, is that I think there are thousands, no doubt thousands of Muslim Americans who could be great presidents and far better presidents than Ben Carson or Donald Trump. That is not, and there's nothing about criticizing Islam as a set of ideas or worrying about Sharia law that denies that fact. And what's very unhelpful here is in all the other cases where people like Dean and other Muslim apologists find bigotry and racism or pretend to find it where it doesn't exist.
Before you respond, I want to ask Sam this. Sam, do you think that Islam is inconsistent with the U.S. Constitution? As someone who studies this.
Well, it depends what you mean by Islam.
So do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I don't. I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
Now, those comments by Dr. Carson have caused an uproar among many politically correct liberals, but let's look at what happens when you mix Islamic values with a political system. For example, religious dictatorships known as theocracies dominate the Muslim world. In Saudi Arabia, it's against the law for women to even drive a car. Being gay is also illegal, and leaving the Muslim faith, well, that carries the death penalty. And in Sudan, another Islamic theocracy, women are the target of many, quote, public order laws. And according to Amnesty International, quote, whoever commits in a public space an act or conducts himself in an indecent manner or manner contrary to public morality or wears indecent or immoral dress, which causes annoyance to public feelings, shall be punished with whipping, not exceeding 40 lashes, or with a fine, or with both. And in the country of Bahrain, Islamic courts enforce the rule of law where a woman's testimony is worth half that of a man's, and a rapist can avoid punishment if he marries his victim. Here now with reaction, 2016 Republican presidential candidate Dr. Benjamin Carson. Dr. Carson, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
Let's talk about the interview and what you said specifically about a Muslim president. Do you stand by the comments?
Absolutely, I stand by the comments. You know, what we have to do is we have to recognize that this is America, and we have a Constitution. And we do not put people in, at the leadership of our country whose faith might interfere with them carrying out the duties of the Constitution. So if, for instance, you believe in a theocracy, I don't care if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian and you're running for president and you want to make this into a theocracy, I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to advocate you being the president.
Yeah. I spoke with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser today, who's a moderate Muslim, and I asked if he could name a single Muslim country that treats women the way we treat women, or minorities the way we treat minorities in this country. He couldn't name a single one. Was that what you were thinking in your mind when you were answering the question? In other words, the way Muslim theocracies currently operate?
That's correct. I mean, they currently do not tend to operate the same way that our system does. Now, if someone has a Muslim background and they're willing to reject those tenets and to accept the way of life that we have, and clearly will swear to place our Constitution above their religion, then of course they will be considered infidels and heretics. But at least I would then be quite willing to support it.
Islam is a vast set of commitments and ideas, and you know, there are 1.6 billion Muslims on earth who hold to those ideas in varying degrees. Some nominally, and some are, you know, right next door to, or even right of, you know, Mullah Omar. The crucial case of extremism now is ISIS, or the Islamic State. Now, if you're going to talk about Sharia law, if you're going to talk about the law that mandates the cutting off of hands of thieves or throwing gays from rooftops.
All right, so I think what I hear in your statement there is you kind of are tempering those remarks. For example, if there was a moderate Muslim that denounced Sharia, that denounced radical Islamists, that denounced quotes in the Quran about killing the infidels or not taking Christians or Jews for your friends, that denounced the controversial life of Muhammad, you would be open to that Muslim running for president?
Of course.
Okay, but, well, then, so basically the controversy is over in that sense. Did you mean to say radical Islamist or one that supports a form of government as is practiced in Muslim countries? Is that more what you meant to say?
Well, you know, that was implied in the comment because I prefaced that by saying I don't care what religion or faith someone belongs to, if they're willing to subjugate that to the American way and to our Constitution, then I have no problem with that. That's what I said before that.
Yeah.
Is that in the Quran, Sam? Sam, is that in the Quran, throwing gays from the death? Sam, is that in the Quran?
It's in the Hadith.
It's not in the Quran. You know it's not in the Quran, Sam. And not all Muslims follow Hadith. You know that. I've had a gay imam, openly gay imam.
Dean, let him interrupt
me.
Sam, finish your thought, and then Dean, you can respond.
Dean, you're going to get a chance to talk. But it's this kind of obscurantism that you hear piping up from Dean now, which gives some kernel of truth to the fears expressed by people like, again, genuine bigots like Ben Carson.
Again, it seems to be hard for people to actually hear English and understand it. I said I would support anyone, regardless of their background, if in fact they embrace American values and our Constitution and are willing to place that above their beliefs. You'll see that I said that anybody who embraces our American values and our Constitution is somebody who is acceptable to me. And then the follow-up question to that was about a Muslim for president. Mm-hmm. Well, if I said that anybody who embraces our values and our Constitution, obviously the question is asked in context of somebody who doesn't. And of course, if they don't, I don't want them to be the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. That's fairly simple and straightforward.
What Ben Carson said, though, is part of the meme we've heard from the right over and over, that being Muslim somehow makes you less American and you have less rights. That somehow, since I'm a Muslim, I'm a threat to this country. I'm an enemy to this country. I want to oppose Islamic law and take over the country. You know, these are things we hear over and over, and we're doing our best to fight against these ideas, to make it clear to our fellow Americans that I don't want to impose Islamic law. My Muslim friends don't want to impose Islamic law. Yet somehow we keep hearing this over and over. And it's a fight. You know, it's a fight. I'm trying to reach out to my fellow Americans and win the hearts and minds, and it's a struggle.
Now, you have no problem with a Muslim being president. You said earlier today that would be if he would renounce Sharia law. Now, you know, is that where you stand? Because many others have come out today and said, well, is that some sort of a litmus test? Is that a suggestion that Muslims have to do more if they want to run for higher office than Jews or Christians?
Well, bear in mind, in the standard corpus juris of the authoritative doctrines of Islam, you cannot separate church and state. So in order to be eligible to be President of the United States, you're going to have to renounce that, which makes you a heretic and an infidel. But as long as they're willing to do that and to clearly place the United States Constitution above their personal beliefs, that's like anybody else. Bear in mind, if there was a Christian running and that Christian wanted to establish a theocracy, I would not support that person either.
Mm-hmm. Or even worse, like the person who stood up at Trump's rally, who was obviously a lunatic, obviously a bigot, should have been shouted down by Trump.
Assalamu alaikum. Many other Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim-majority country. I know because I am one of them. But my father came from a Kenyan family that includes generations of Muslims. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
You're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
Donald Trump is defending how he handled one of his supporters claiming that President Obama is a Muslim. Trump is tweeting up a storm right now about the controversy. We followed his Twitter account before. He says this: "Am I morally obligated to defend the president every time somebody says something bad or controversial about him? I don't think so." Follows up with, "This is the first time in my life that I've caused controversy by not saying something. And if someone made a nasty or controversial statement about me to the president, do you really think he would come to my rescue? No chance."
But what's very sinister here is when you have seemingly liberal Muslims play hide the ball with the article of faith and deny at every turn that there's any link between ideas and the kinds of violence we see in the Muslim world.
The reason I have a go at atheists is because it's fun, because they're so thin-skinned. They're like libertarians, or they're like cyclists, or liberal Democrats in the UK, or any other sort of, or feminists, in fact.
Go ahead, Dean.
Getting advice from Sam about Islam is like getting advice from Paula Dean about Black Lives Matters. You have to be kidding me.
There you go. He's calling me a bigot on national.
I didn't call you a bigot. I had
the reason I not a bigot is because it's fun, because they're so thin-skinned. They're like libertarians, or they're like cyclists, or liberal Democrats in the UK, or any other sort of, or feminists, in fact.
In the beginning, there was nothing, an infinite void. Then, in an instant, everything known to man came into being. The Big Bang, the birth of time itself, chaos and beauty. A beauty that created infinite galaxies. Galaxies that would one day create the unimaginable. Life, but even more incredible. The human brain. The pinnacle of billions of years of evolution. A brain that possesses the power of reason and the ability to ponder life's most ancient riddles. Why are we here? Is there intelligent life beyond our galaxy? Or the one question that has puzzled mankind since the beginning of time.
If God exists, then why did he make ugly people?